Now we know that the overlap kind of is around this area here, but if you remember, the problem started just before this point here. So if I pull out the trim, using the trim tool, pull this out, you can see that I've still got potentially a glitch here, because if I make a selection which overlaps those two ends, the crossfade will encompass this drop to silence on the left hand side of the edit here, if that makes sense. I'm going to say that again because it's important that it's clear. If I drag this out again, then you'll see that we have a silence at this point. Now, even if I reduce that so that you can't actually see it anymore, okay, so I trim that off, whoops, slightly more. But just to exaggerate, if I made a selection which crossed the overlap here, then my crossfade would still take into account this drop in volume that was on this side. So I don't know whether it'll be visible from applying the crossfade, but we'll try it. Yes, you can see it. You can see that there's still a problem here. Okay, because we've made a crossfade that kind of involves that bit of well, it encompasses the glitch that we have there before. So that's not ideal. So we'll get rid of the crossfade. I'm just going to press delete and it gets rid of it, and just we have what we had before. And instead, what I'm going to do, we know, and this is where you need to use your memory, but we know that in this region that sort of finishes around about here, and you have to use a little bit of guesswork, but you should be able to remember having dragged this particular region over. Let's do it again. Oops. Okay, so it stops there, and if I drag this over, we will remember that this region here finishes at about this point. Okay, that's where I would get my glitch if I tried to make a crossfade there. So I want my fade to go basically from here to exactly the end of that region. Now it's kind of hard to make that selection manually as perfect as I'd like. So I'm going to use a quick key, which is, again, it's another useful one to remember. And I'm sorry if I'm labouring this point, but I think this is very, very handy when it comes to doing edits. And again, if you get into the habit of doing this properly, you'll find that it speeds up your process considerably. But having established the right-hand side of the fade, which is about here, okay, remember that it finishes there. I'm going to use a quick key, which is Alt, Shift, and Tab, and it automatically shifts. It bounces the selection so that it encompasses that area right to the beginning of that region. Okay, I'm going to do that again. So I remove that selection. I click on here where I want the crossfade to end. Alt, Shift, and Tab, and that extends the selection to right to the beginning of the region. The same is true, for example, if I want to do it from the other side. In this case, if I place my cursor at the left-hand extreme of the where I want the crossfade to be, and then press Shift Tab, then it jumps in the other direction. Okay, so if you want it to extend the selection right to the end of the region, you press Shift and Tab. If you want to extend it left, so you've got the right hand side, you want to extend it left to the beginning of the region, then you press Alt, Shift and Tab. I hope that's clear, and again, I'm sorry to labour the point, but I think it's a useful little tip to know. So Alt, Shift, Tab, and then I'm going to press the Fade button, and now we've got a fade which doesn't have that glitch in it. And again, I'm going to show you that as you get a bit more familiar with all of this, it becomes a bit more fluid. We need to find the next glitch first. Okay, so that's the last problem area, which has now got a crossfade on it. Now we jump forward to here. Okay, so once again, make a selection which encompasses the problem area. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And it, okay, so make that a little bit bigger. Shift and extend that selection. Delete. Whoops, I didn't use shuffle, so I'll undo that. Try again. There we go. And then zoom in. I think I still need to chop off a little bit of this, so I'll do that. Make the overlap, and remember where the right hand side of the left hand region is, which is about where that 3 is. So I will now make my selection there, Alt Shift Tab, go back to the beginning, fades, and done. Okay, so it gets much quicker. I had to explain it in longhand, but it's actually quite a quick process. And now if I zoom out, obviously the important thing now is to audition it to make sure it's all right. Okay, and it is, so I can't hear any problem there. So just one more time, so that you're absolutely sure that it works. So again, make the selection, zoom in so that I make sure I've got the whole lot. Shift Tab and extend it. Use shuffle, and those come together. Incidentally, to find the left where you've put your cursor, because it has disappeared now off the edge of the screen, it's somewhere. Whoops! I've just found it by mistake. Okay, pretend it was off screen. It's off to this side somewhere. If you press the left-hand arrow, then it will jump to where your cursor is. The useful thing here is that if I make a selection and I press the left-hand arrow, it jumps to the left-hand side of that selection. If I press the right-hand arrow, it jumps to the right-hand side of that selection. However, once again, we want to be here. Of course, by giving you all these tips, I'm making it seem a great deal longer process than it actually is. But once again, I hope... Oops, I lost my cursor. Delete that. Ooh, funnily enough, that's almost perfect. However, so make a little overlap. Oops, still in shuffle mode. Don't want that. Go back to slip mode. Make a little overlap. There we go, done. Okay, so I hope that's reasonably clear. Obviously I haven't done all of those. I haven't sorted out everything yet. There's still a couple more problem areas at the end here. In fact, I think... Okay, we've actually got the beginning of the next track on there, so that's obviously something that you'd want to remove at the end of the file as well. Incidentally, just one more thing. We'll pretend that I've sorted out these ones here, just for the purposes of speed. And remember that if you wanted to do a fade out or a fade in at the fade in at the beginning of a track and a fade out at the end of the track, if you can use exactly the same process as you do with the crossfade, only it will only give you one fade. So if I assume that that section here is the point at which I wish to fade out, then I use exactly the same process as I did before. I place my cursor where I want the fade to start, and I press Shift Tab. It jumps the selection to the end of that file, and then I go to fade, and you'll notice here we only have one fade. So again, you can choose equal power or equal gain. I'm going to choose equal power for now. Or you might want to use an S curve here, so that you have a bit more of a dramatic curve, but a slower attenuation towards the end. So okay, that it really is. You'll need to mess about with that and see what you think works best.